So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, Billy Joe Saunders, brings his background into it, says that Canelo Alvarez has never ever fought a Gypsy Man like me. He says that um, Canelo's never been in the ring with someone like me. And he goes, it's not about the money for me. It's about the win. It's about me creating history and winning the fight against Saul Canelo Alvarez. He goes, this isn't about money. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think it's not about the money for Billy Joe Saunders? I think it is. Of course it is. All fighters say that. It's a lot of fighters say that it's not about the money, but come on. Your prize fighters, it is about the money. Now, if he means that, the win's more important, and I've seen Billy Joe Saunders say that I would do it for free, and I'd rather do it for free and get the win. But at the end of the day, your record and a win in history, like, you can't eat if you do it. If you do things if just say you go in and do fight for pride, that, you're damaging your health. A lot of fighters go on and say that, I do it for the win and I don't do it for the money, but that's obviously not true. Otherwise, they wouldn't make such a fuss about it when it comes to splits and when it comes to what they're getting paid. And, of course, it is about the money. These are things that fighters just say for the sake of it. Now, I do think Billy Joe Saunders wants to win. Of course, everyone, it doesn't matter because he knows he's going to get paid regardless. Billy Joe Saunders knows he's going to get paid. So, of course, whether he wins or loses isn't going to affect his purse unless, people think he's taking a dive, which he won't. So he's going to get paid regardless. So, of course, you want to come out the winner because you're going to get paid anyway. So you want to go out and prepare yourself the best possible, possible you can, so you can come out the victor in the fight. So I'm not surprised that Saunders wants to win, because every fighter wants to go in there and win. Every fighter feels that they're going to go in there and win. I'm pretty sure everyone that's tried facing Canelo and been in the ring with Canelo felt they were going to win. I think Saunders may be able to give Canelo a bit of trouble with his hand speed, foot speed, movement. Might be able to give him a little bit of trouble, but a lot of people are pointing out that Saunders is not a 168. He looks quite sluggish. He looks quite slow. He looks quite... he just doesn't look like that's his weight at 168. And Canelo looks very good. He looks very strong. He looks very powerful. He's got a granite chin, as we know, throughout his career. He's also a very good boxer. And they just think, Saunders isn't going to be able... I don't think Saunders is going to have the stamina against a bulldog like Canelo. It doesn't matter how hard he trains. I just don't feel that he's going to have the stamina to keep Canelo off of him, and the pressure that Canelo's going to put on him for, however long the fight goes, because I don't think it's going to go 12 rounds. I think Saunders will be stopped. I think Smith was a big guy, and he was able to absorb Canelo's shots. And I think Smith also tucked in. He went into his shell. I think if Smith had opened up, he might have got stopped. There was also times where I thought Smith looked like he was on the verge of getting stopped. But, fair play to Smith. He braved it out. He toughed it out. But I don't think Billy Joe Saunders has that natural size. And I don't think he's going to be able to absorb Canelo's punch power the way Callum Smith was. Callum Smith is a guy that's a very, very big super middleweight that potentially should be fighting at light heavyweight. And I think he will fight at light heavyweight now. In terms of Billy Joe Saunders bringing in his background, I do think Billy Joe Saunders is a lot more... I said this in a previous video, that I think Billy Joe Saunders is a lot more confident than Callum Smith. I do think Billy Joe Saunders will... I don't think Billy Joe Saunders will go out with a whimper. And I'm not saying Callum Smith went out with a whimper, because it's a lot easy sitting on your armchair fighting Canelo Alvarez, and saying that Callum Smith should have gone for it a lot more, because when you're in there and getting punched and you've got your bicep, your arm swollen up, and it's hurting, and you're struggling to move it, it's a lot easier to talk and say you should have gone for it. And remember, he's in there with Canelo. Canelo's hurting him in there. Callum Smith was getting hurt in the fight. You could clearly see that Canelo was getting to him. So again, it's a lot easier talking from the outside than it is from the inside. But I just think Billy Joe Saunders, if he's in that position where, you know, Canelo's starting to dominate, I think Billy Joe Saunders might also go for it. I don't know how he's going to go for it because I can't see him stopping Canelo Alvarez in a million years. So I think if he does try to go for it, he's only going to end up getting knocked out in brutal fashion. But Billy Joe Saunders does strike me as a character that he's not going to go out with a whimper. If he is behind, if he's ahead and he's winning the fight, then of course he'll keep doing what he's doing. But I think if he's behind and, you know, he sees Canelo's now starting to dominate and starting to get ahead and starting to win the fight, I do think Saunders is the type of character that will go for it. And that might lead to his downfall. I think that will lead to his downfall because there's no way Saunders can go toe-to-toe with Canelo and come out on top. It's just not, I just don't see it. I think if that happens, there's only one winner, and that's Canelo. I think the only chance Saunders has is to box and move and for 12 rounds and look to outpoint Canelo. I can't see him stopping Canelo in a million years. If I'm honest with you, I can't. If he couldn't stop Willie Monroe, if he couldn't stop Martin Murray, if he couldn't stop David Lemieux, if he couldn't stop Andy Lee, if he couldn't stop Chris Eubank, those guys are levels below Canelo. I think Canelo's got a way better chin than all of them as well. So I don't see him stopping Canelo, if I'm totally honest with you. And I personally think that's the only way he can win the fight anyway. Because I think if the fight is close and somehow Billy Joe Saunders makes it a close fight, I don't think he's going to get the decision anyway. So I think the only way he's going to win this fight is by knockout. And I don't think he can knock Canelo out. I just don't think he can. I don't think he's got the punch power. He hasn't shown it throughout his career thus far. That tells me that he's got a chance of stopping Canelo. Like I said, if all those fighters that he fought, he couldn't stop them or wasn't even close to stopping them, then how's he going to stop Canelo? I doubt it. And I think that's the only way he can win the fight. Because I don't think he can school Canelo. I don't think he's going to just completely make it so one-sided like he did against Lemieux. Canelo won't allow that. And I don't think if it's close, I don't think he's going to get the decision. So I think the only way he's going to get the win is by stoppage, and I can't see him stopping Canelo. You know, never say never. You know, funny things have happened inside a boxing ring. Especially when punches are being thrown, anything can happen, but I can't see him stopping Canelo Alvarez. I just can't see it. In terms of him bringing up his background, I'm not a fan of fighters bringing in their background, and a lot of fighters do it. They bring in their background and say, oh, you know what, he's never fought a guy from you know, with my upbringing or from my background, and fighters bring it up because I don't really think that plays any part in the fight. I think it comes down to skill, talent, and ability. And Billy Joe Saunders obviously has that. His background's got nothing to do. There's many guys that maybe from a gypsy background can't even fight, probably. You know, there's many, like I said, when you look at it, when you look through history of boxing, how many gypsy world champions have we had? I can only think of three: Andy Lee, Saunders, and Fury. Those are the three guys that I know. That there's probably others. I don't know. You could probably point out others. But how many Mexican world champions have we had? How many great fighters from the Mexican background have we had? You know, so Canelo isn't going to like taking that. I know Billy Joe Saunders is trying to say that, you know what, I'm going to come and give it my all and give it my best. And I just don't think bringing in your background is a great thing to do. Firstly, I think that's not going to sit down well with Canelo. He's going to be like, oh, he's bringing his background. What is he trying to say? That his background's superior to mine? Or, you know, I just feel like when you start bringing your background in it and you're saying that he's never fought a gypsy man like me, it's kind of like you're trying to say your background is superior than other backgrounds. And it sounds like that way he said it, he's never fought a gypsy man like me. So look how many great fighters that Canelo's been in the ring with, right? Shane Mosley, Lara, Austin Trout, you know, Daniel Jacobs, Amir Khan, Gennady Golovkin. He's been in there with Mayweather. Yeah, I know Mayweather beat him, but he's been in there with, you know, what's his name? Angulo, Alfred Angulo. What's his name? Angulo. He's been in there with Angulo, And that guy, Angulo, although he's not anywhere near as skilled as some of the other fighters that I've taken, you talk about heart. Alfred Angulo has got the biggest heart. Like, that guy is so tough and a warrior, and he's not a type of guy that I would want to bump into in the street, because he's the type of guy that could rip, like, if you were to have a scrap with this guy on the street, he'd rip you in half. Billy Joe Saunders doesn't fight like a Mike Tyson. He's a more skillful fighter. So he's never ever fought in a way where you think that, that his particular type of style takes a lot of heart, because he doesn't take a lot of shots. He's not a fighter that gets hit a lot. You don't see Billy Joe Saunders with swollen eyes and swollen lips, and he's not that type of fighter. He's more of a fighter that boxes, and he's a very good slick boxer. He's not a guy that goes toe to toe like a Toro Gatti, style. He's not that type of fighter. He's more of a pure boxer. So I don't think bringing in your background is a good thing, because I feel like when you start saying he's never fought a Gypsy Man like me, I feel like you're even though he wasn't disrespecting of a background, but the way it sounds, it's like you're saying that your background is superior to the other backgrounds, and I just don't think bringing in backgrounds is a good thing to do. Yeah, fair enough. Billy Joe Saunders is reason why he's at where he's at, not because of his background, because of how good a boxer he is and how skillful he is. It's got nothing to do with his background. There's many guys from that background that have failed, right? There's probably Gypsy fighters that have failed. So why didn't their background get them through? But yet guys like Fury, Andy Lee, and Tyson Fury were managed to be able to win world titles. Why? Not because of their background, because of how good they were. Right? Same thing. Look, I'm a British Pakistani. How many fighters have we had from that background? That hardly any. The only one that we know is Amir Khan. Right? That's the only guy from that background that's achieved great things in boxing. So what's background got? Background's got nothing. I don't feel background's got anything to do with it. It comes down to skill, talent, and ability, natural gifts that you've been given from God. Bringing in background, I don't think it's a good thing to do, especially in the climate that we live in. Not to say that, like I said, Billy Joe Saunders didn't mean any malice behind it, but I just don't like it when any fighter brings in their background and says that you've never fought a guy like me, or the upbringing that I've had, or from the background that I'm from. I just don't think that's a good thing to say, even though I know where Billy Joe was coming from. I just don't think you should bring in your background and say that you've not fought a man from my kind of background. Firstly, you're disrespecting a lot of the great champions that Canelo's been in the ring with, which, because that's what it sounds like. Even though he might not mean it with any kind of malice, but it sounds like when you're saying you've never been in the ring with another Gypsy Man like me, it's like, imagine if somebody said, you've never been in the ring with a Mexican like me, or it just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right. I just don't like it when people bring in their backgrounds. I think, talk about your skill, your talent, and ability. You say that you've never been in the ring with anyone with my kind of skill set. Fair enough. It's all right to say that, but to say that you've never been, Canelo's never fought. I don't think he's ever been in the ring with a Gypsy Man, and this is probably the first time. But that's not going to be the reason why Billy Joe Saunders wins the fight. That's the reason why, if Billy Joe Saunders wins the fight, is going to be down to his talent and ability, not because of his background. Because, like I said, there's many people from Billy Joe Saunders' background that has failed in boxing, that have tried. I only know 3 high-profile Gypsy world champions, or guys that achieved high things in boxing, and that's Saunders, Fury, and Andy Lee. If there's others, please enlighten me. I don't know any others. But look at Mexico. Look how many Mexican world champions we've had. We've had a lot of the great fighters. Morales, Barrera. What's his name? Morales, Barrera, Chavez, Canelo, Marquez. We've had some great fighters from that background. Andy Ruiz recently. I know he's an American Mexican, but he's still, from a Mexican background. He became a world champion. We've had some, how many Mexican world champions? We had so many. So many. The list goes on and on. But I just don't think bringing in background is a wise thing to do. I think I can see where Billy Joe's is coming from, where he's coming from, and he's basically trying to say that I'm not gonna go out with a whimper from the background that we're from. You know, the win's more important than the money. I get that. I get that. I remember when he fought Andy Lee, he said that, this fight is more than about the money. It's more about the title. It's about being able to being able to have your held high in your own community, right? I get that. I get, the community from Billy Joe Saunders is from. I know a few gypsies. I've actually, I go to a gym where there's quite a few gypsies, and you know what? They can fight. Gypsy people can fight. They're tough people. They can fight. But like I said, I don't think we should generalize, because not everybody from that background is a fighter or can fight. There'll be a lot that don't fight. So I think I think bringing in your background, I just don't think it's a wise thing to do. I think, just imagine if Canelo was to say to Billy Joe Saunders, "You haven't fought anyone a Mexican like me." Just doesn't sound right, does it? I think Canelo would get a lot of stick for saying something like that. So again, I don't think Billy Joe Saunders meant any malice with it. I just don't think that any fighter should bring in a background and say that, you've never fought anyone from my background, even though I know where he was coming from with it. But again, I just don't think you should be bringing your background into it. Just talk about your skills and talent. And Billy Joe Saunders doesn't need to talk about his background. He's got a lot of skills and talent that he can talk about, and he has talked about it in the past. Bring that up. Mock Canelo that way about his skills and his talent, not about the background, because I just don't think that plays any part in a fight, if I'm honest. I think your skills and talent and ability is what gets you through, and what has got Billy Joe Saunders to being a two-weight world champion, not his background. Because like I said, there's many people from that background that have failed in boxing. Or I think so anyway. There must be gypsy fighters that have fought, John Fury didn't have a successful career or he didn't have was nowhere near world championship level. And there must have been others as well. So the fact that Billy Joe Saunders and Tyson Fury, Andy Lee, these came through, fair enough. But again, that was probably down to their skill and ability and the X factor they had in the ring more than the background, And that same, there's probably a lot of Mexican fighters that haven't reached the top, that failed. Whereas there's a lot of Mexican fighters that have reached the top and were elite fighters, that you can mention as all-time greats, some Mexican fighters, There's a lot of Mexican fighters that are all-time, that we can mention here, like Barrera, Morales, Chavez. Canelo's now an all-time great. So these are all-time great fighters. So let's see what happens when this fight happens. I think it's a great fight. I think it's a fight that is going to capture the public's imagination. I think the boxing's public. I don't think it's for me personally, I think you could probably call it a super fight because Canelo's involved, but I don't look at it as a super fight because I feel that Canelo's gonna win, for me, a super fight is a fight when a fighter's going into a fight where there's a 50-50 fight. It's between two huge names, two massive marquee household names, and it's a fight that people can't split them. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is a household name. I don't think his name. I think the hardcore boxing fans know who Billy Joe Saunders is, but I don't think his name is that big to the casual audience. Although he's growing, and I'm pretty sure this Canelo fight is going to help him grow his profile. But I think it's a massive fight within the boxing fraternity, and we're all looking forward to it because I think it's, especially for the UK and British fans, the reason why it's a big fight for us is because I think we get to find out how good Billy Joe Saunders is, and we've been wanting to know for quite a long time. because Billy Joe Saunders has been talking a lot and talking how good he is and the fact that he wants to be tested against the best. We're finally going to find out how good he really is. And I think a lot of people, that is intriguing to a lot of people. You know, Callum Smith was the same for me. I always thought Callum Smith was a good fighter, but I wanted to see how good he was. And I found out against Canelo, his level. And the same thing is I want to see with Saunders is what's his level. And I think we'll find that out against Canelo, right? So let's see, man. I think it's a very good fight. I think it's a very, very good fight. I have Canelo winning quite handily. There's a few people that think Saunders is gonna cause Canelo trouble. Some people think Saunders is gonna beat him. Very few, by the way. I see majority of people have Canelo massive favorite. But let's see, man. Let's see. I think it'll be a good fight. I think it'll be a fight for hopefully for the ages. Hopefully, you know, Billy Joe Saunders can put in a performance of a lifetime and shock a lot of people. Because for me, if Billy Joe Saunders pulls this off, if Billy Joe Saunders beats Canelo Alvarez, that would be the greatest win by a British fighter on away soil. But not even, there won't be any question. It's not even a debate. This would be the greatest win because Canelo for me is an all-time great, right? He's only lost to Mayweather, who's probably the greatest fighter ever. And right now, he looks unbeatable to me. So if Billy Joe Saunders pulls this off, that would be the greatest win. And the same thing with if Callum Smith pulled it off. It would have been the greatest win by a British fighter on away soil ever. Ever. I don't think anything comes close. When people talk about Lloyd Honeyghan against Don Curry, or people talk about, you know, I just don't think. I know Randolph Turpin beat Sugar Ray Robinson, but was that on away soil? I don't know. That might have been in the UK. I can't remember. But I think this would trump everything. Personally, I think this would trump everything. And Billy Joe Saunders has the movement, has the foot speed, he has the hand speed, he moves well in the ring. It's just whether he can do that against someone so elite as like Canelo and powerful and strong as good as Canelo. It's difficult. Canelo's a box fighter. He's a puncher that is a very good boxer. That's a big problem. Miguel Cotto was like that as well. He was a box puncher. He was a big puncher that could box. Golovkin is also a box puncher, but Golovkin never really used to box that much. He always just used to be a pressure fighter, walk you down and bash you up. Although I do believe Golovkin was a good boxer as well. Golovkin could get in the center ring and box with you as well. He's very good. He just never ever had to use it. He did against Canelo though. And both those guys put in a great performance, great epic fight. I can't wait for this Saunders-Canelo fight. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be an epic fight. I do. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm hoping it'll be a great fight. I'm hoping that Billy Joe Saunders is going to be able to rise to the occasion like Tyson Fury can. It's just that I've said this. People have said, well, you know, Billy Joe Saunders rises to the occasion like Fury. We don't know that yet because I don't think he's been in the ring with anyone that elite that we can say that he rises to the occasion. Because his best wins are against Eubank, Lee, and Lemieux. And I don't view any of those guys as elite. So this is the first time he's fighting somebody elite. We'll find out how good Billy Joe Saunders is. And I think a lot of people have the same kind of anticipation for this fight that I do. That they want to see how good Saunders is. They want to see what level Saunders is at. And that's why this is intriguing, because we're actually going to find out how good Billy Joe Saunders is. And I actually want to find out how good Billy Joe Saunders is more than I want to find out how good Callum Smith was, because I think Saunders has talked a lot more. He resonates the public a lot more than Callum Smith. And I think a lot of the majority of the British public think that Billy Joe Saunders is better than Callum Smith. Even though if they fought, I think it would be a great fight. And I actually think Smith would have a great chance of beating Saunders. I'll tell you why. Because Billy Joe Saunders doesn't fight like Canelo or Ryder. If you look at the way Canelo and Callum Smith, they gave Canelo and Ryder fought against Callum Smith. They never gave him any space. Billy Joe Saunders doesn't fight like that. He's not going to look to maul Canelo. He's going to look to fight at distance and look to box with Callum Smith. And that might play into Callum Smith's hand. And then the big right hand that he has, the long levers that he has, is going to come into play. And that's why I think the fight is a lot more competitive with Callum Smith, because styles make fights in this game. And I think stylistically, the fight between Billy Joe and Callum Smith is a lot tougher for Billy Joe than what people think. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this fight. Let me know what you think about Billy Joe Saunders saying that Canelo's never fought a Gypsy Man like him. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And make sure to share the video. Make sure to smash the like button. And make sure to like all my videos. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.